This is OFN NFL Preview on the R-Lads Football Network as we preview Championship Sunday in the NFL. We have three, it looks like, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is well on his way. He still has a ways to go. He's got to stay healthy. But Patrick Mahomes, of course, is the one that will take a little bit longer to get there. You got Brady. You got Rodgers. They're cemented. And Josh Allen, hey, you never know. He's got a shot. So we might look back at this Sunday as one of the great Sundays in NFL history. As I welcome in Mark Lawrence from PlaybookSports.com. The trick, though, Mark, is we need some action. Like we need some fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go action. We need a touchdown drive and then a game winner with seconds to go, a game-winning. We haven't had any of that in 2 weeks so far of the COVID 2020 asterisk season. So maybe we're saving all of that for Sunday.
Well, if you want, Greg, I can reach out to Steven Spielberg and see if he can write a script
for the
playoffs this week. Yeah,
we need
but
it.
I can relate to what you're saying. There's been nothing that's really made you stick to a football game from start to finish from what we've seen so far. And hopefully, I think we're going to see a lot better football, a lot closer games this weekend. We got a really great Final Four here.
And I'm just tickled to pink to hear that the NFL is going to allow 22,000 people to the Super Bowl. Yippee! 22,000. Yay! Come on, man. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, this whole season, it's great that it's really, I'm surprised we're in the playoffs. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick was really the last big COVID issue. Since the playoffs have began, we haven't had any. We haven't had, that guy, it was a major guy. He missed the game. Nothing anybody could do about it. So the NFL has gotten pretty lucky, and it takes hard work, no question. You got to give him props. The on-game season is worked almost. Look, it's been the warts, no question. The Pittsburgh fiasco and Tuesdays and Wednesday games and that kind of stuff. There have been issues, but for the most part, if to just get the season over with in a couple of weeks, we have 3 more games to go. They've done a really good job, and you got to give them effort and praise because without NFL, no matter how weak it's been from time to time, without fans and so forth, I don't know what we would do.
Well, I pretty much say you can rest assured that those 22,000 fans that'll be at the Hard Rock Stadium for this football, or in Tampa for this football game, are going to be NFL executive people.
Yeah, probably, right? Except for the 7,000 that they're giving away for the COVID relief people.
Okay,
so that's good.
Yeah, they'll be tucked away in some end zone, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right, but what you're going to see cameras and faces of our NFL ownership, executives, and everything like that. So, and basically what they're saying is we're going to allow 22,000 people to put themselves in harm's way of COVID for this football game.
Yeah, I was watching a hockey game. I was putting a hockey game on, and it's funny because of the way how close the coaches staff is to the players. It's just so funny watching all the players all along the row of the bench and on the ice, and nobody's got masks on. And then just behind them, right behind them, you got the coaching staff with their masks on. I mean, what's the difference? It's just it's silly.
Well, that's the one sport you would think in football behind it where they do wear masks, they do wear helmets, and you would think that they would devise something in the form of a face mask or a shield that could that would serve as a protective device.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, we can
maybe next year, Mark. Maybe we could always be so lucky that we could hope that happens next year. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Next year? Let's hope next year we're not talking about masks, right?
I know, right. But I don't trust anybody anymore. Okay. Let's talk about what happened last week. First, in the NFC, the Packers beat the Rams like we thought they would. That's pretty much what it was. I was just kind of surprised that the Packers rushed the ball as easily as they did, but that had to do with, no question, Aaron Donald was not healthy. And if he's not healthy, you got no shot. Uh, yeah, the Rams went as far as they could go. The injuries were their downfall, and the Packers caught a break but that's what happens when you end up with the number one seed.
Well, tip the hat to them. They deserved it. They earned it. They got it. They were the
Yep.
host, and that's the situation that happens when you're visiting on the road in a playoff game, especially to a cold weather site. And the Green Bay Packers did what they needed to do. No excuses, no harm, no foul. They went out and accomplished the mission. And I don't think they're done yet. I think they're going to be really focused for this football game. So too will Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, undoubtedly. But what we saw last week was, I think, what the Green Bay Packers are all about, and that was dismantling a number one defense in the league who had been really, really good most of the season. In fact, they earned the number one ranking by season's end. And as you mentioned, Aaron Donald not quite up to par had somewhat something to do with that. But it's still Aaron Rodgers and his MVP type season that I think had more to do with that. And we'll see what happens here. I think this is going to be a cold, frigid day on the
Oh
frozen
yeah,
tundra.
that's another thing that'll help the Packers. Yep, and
And
the Bucks go from a dome game, which that was good for them. They didn't have to worry about the weather. They dealt with that with Washington, but that was Washington, so they upgraded the talent opponent, but they got the dome. Now it's different. Now you have the best team in the conference, and you have to deal with the weather conditions as a Florida team. But hand it to the Packers too, because they were down 7 points mid third quarter. The rookie Winfield made a tremendous play to strip Cook of the ball. If the Saints score on that drive, I'm not so sure the Saints don't go on to win the football game. Maybe it just turns into the fact that the Saints just outscored the Bucks. But the turnover was huge, and that was it. The Saints were done after that. Credit the Bucks, and that's what we said even last week. Tampa Bay's offense, they're smoking right now. And if they get any sort of defense and they could create turnovers again against the Packers, then they're going to beat the Packers. So this should be a fun game. But if the weather comes into play, you gotta think it's going to affect the offenses.
well, you might think it does, and if it does, what you've got to match up here is the only two teams that are left in the playoffs that own top 10 ranked offenses and top 10 ranked defenses. So they can rely on one another. They can open the ball up, they can stop the other opponent. I think this is going to be more of a chess match than anything else because of a situation like that. I think the biggest deterrent for the Tampa Bay Bucks in this football game is that this will be their fifth road game in 6 weeks.
Hmm.
That's a lot of travel, especially late in the season. Now, whether or not they won't let that wear them down remains to be seen. But again, they're doing this on the tundra at Lambeau Field on a cold field, so
Yeah.
they're up against it. They've got all these great Tom Brady numbers in this football game, and you have to give him his due and acknowledge exactly what he's all about. I mean, no better underdog as a quarterback in the NFL than Tom Brady.
Yep.
He just simply gets the job done, and he almost looks at it as a Rodney Dangerfield type of situation, where I'm going to show you that type of a thing, and he's got that working for him in his favor here. And this Tampa Bay defense, as you mentioned, they're playing their best football of the season right now. So that goes hand in hand with, and I hate to admit this, but Antonio Brown has worked out well in the offense for the Tampa Bay Bucks. For Tom Brady. Now, I heard he's maybe questionable for this game here. I think his knee went bad on him again. But if he's on the field, I think it's going to be really, really a terrific football game against two teams. Either one that wins this football game will represent the NFC well in the Super Bowl. Yes.
Absolutely. And really, any of these four teams, if you think about it, and that's what makes up a good Final Four, and an intriguing situation where you get not only rematches, regular season rematches, but you get regular season rematches from Week 6. Both rematches came in Week 6. Tampa Bay beat Green Bay 38-10, and I remember taking Tampa Bay in that game and remembering why I did. And it was because I just felt that the Packers were going to, it was just like the way the season was going for them. If you look at it, they had won 4 straight games. Uh, they had the big win over the Saints, no question. But then they went into the bye. And it was like, yeah, I don't know. I just get the feeling that coming out of the bye after starting off 4-0, maybe this is not a good spot for the Packers. And interesting, they got off to a 10-0 lead, which was kind of interesting coming off the bye. But it didn't matter it was all Bucks after that. I say that because sometimes you have to look at perspective when you are taking a look at rematches like that. Well, why did Tampa Bay blow out Green Bay? And I don't think it was a matchup thing. I just think they got him in the right week. Doesn't mean Tampa Bay ain't going to beat him again. It's just I just think there's a little perspective there of what happened and what took place with Green Bay going to Tampa Bay in that matchup. And by the way, last week Drew Brees, we haven't heard anything yet about retiring. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know what he's waiting for, but Aaron Rodgers is not Drew Brees right now. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is playing at an elite level. Drew Brees is ready to retire and looks it. That's a big upgrade that the Bucks are going to be dealing with this week.
Yeah, a huge difference in those two quarterbacks. Drew Brees in the back end of his career and Aaron Rodgers peaking, if you will, at 38 years of age, showing no signs at all of slowing down or wearing down Aaron Rodgers, only getting better. And this could end up being the best season of his career by the time the season ends. And I also think that he will remind his teammates 38 unanswered points against Tampa Bay in that loss that they took earlier on in the year. That was the worst loss thus far this season by this Green Bay Packer football team. So I'm sure they'll have that chip on their shoulder here as well. Now, Tampa Bay could use this as a confidence edge and say, hey, we've handled this team before. We only beat them. We completely dominated this football team before, and we can do the same thing here. But it depends upon who you're asking to extract that revenge. And now it's Aaron Rodgers you're asking to get the job done. And I think he might have something to say in this football game.
Yeah, and it's again, this COVID thing where the fans have been screwed the most. I mean, there's hundreds of different examples of how the fans have been screwed. And here's potentially one of them, if it happens. If the Bucks win the game and become the first home Super Bowl team, and there will be no fans. Because like you said, there'll be 7,000 fans of COVID workers who maybe 90% of them may not even like football. And then you're going to have about another 80% of the additional, say, 15,000. That'll be all NFL people. And what are you going to have? Maybe if you're lucky, 1,000 Tampa Bay, true Tampa Bay Buck fans. Maybe if you're lucky.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, that's just wow. And then you can't even like celebrate for the whole 2 weeks in your community, which would have been bigger than the game.
Yeah, the community, the confetti after the game, everything about it just wouldn't be the same. And it would really kind of go down in the history books as, yes, the first team to ever play in their home stadium in a Super Bowl with an asterisk because their fans were able to be in attendance to watch that football game. So, you know, that is a motive for them to do just that, for Tampa to do just that in this football contest, undoubtedly. But, you know, they're going to have to, like I say, they're going to have to win for the fifth time in the last 6 weeks on the road to get that job done.
And by the way, let's keep this in mind. You talk about perspective. When the Bucks beat the Packers in that game, and then we went the rest of the season, okay, and now the regular season's over. We're looking back at the season for the Bucks. They had one win all season against a playoff team. One.
That they did.
That was it.
Yep.
So,
that they did, and you can.
It wasn't like they had 4 or 5 wins, and that was another win. That was it.
Yep.
So again, perspective. You know, they caught Green Bay at the right time.
Well, the Green Bay Packers' record against winning teams this year was not all that great, to say the least.
2-2. Yep. If you take out Chicago, which you just did, 4-2 against playoff teams, 2-2 against winning teams.
Exactly, but you know that all comes to you play who's in front of you.
That's right.
You know, and it's all about the schedule making, and you know you don't handicap a horse race because of something like that. You're handicapping the horse race for the horse, and you know the horse here being the Green Bay Packers, the jockey being Aaron Rodgers, the other horse in this match race, the Tampa Bay Bucks with their jockey Tom Brady, who's learned how to find the winner circle more than any other football jockey in NFL history. So this is a lot of intrigue in this football game.
Should
And
be an awesome game.
yes, it should be. And I'm really, really looking forward to it.
And Packers were my pick before the playoffs began. They were your pick too, I think, before the playoffs began in the NFC.
Before the playoffs began, not at the beginning of the year, but before the playoffs began.
Before the playoffs began, same for me. And look, this is definitely the game though where I'm like, even though I'm definitely sticking with the Packers, this is like that one team though that would worry me the most. No question, the way they're playing right now, the Bucks. I do like the fact though that even though the Packers defense has come up, the Bucks defense, excuse me, the Packers defense has also been really good over the second half of the season. Killed them last year, but they're getting good defense. They got a running game. They've got Aaron Rodgers, who understands his legacy is right in front of him. A second Super Bowl is so big for any quarterback. He's got it right. He could taste it. I can't even believe he's never hosted a home championship game.
Right.
That's crazy. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it is.
All the playoff games he's been in. So I just think it's as good as I like the way Tampa Bay is going. This is just that one team, because I actually might take Tampa Bay as the second best team right now. If I had to put the four teams and scramble them around, I might go Packers 1, Bucks 2. I might do that. So that's how close I think this game and close these teams are. But I just like the Packers a little bit more, and I think they're going to be the team of destiny thanks to, again, Aaron Rodgers getting a second championship.
Well, they could well be that team of destiny. I think the other team may end up being in the other game just for the fact that they got here. Maybe not that they can complete the mission, but it being Aaron Rodgers' time to, like you say, win that second ring, that could end up being a destiny type of a situation for him as well.
All right, and you could probably see it on the crawler there. You can also get these types of trends if you subscribe to the Playbook Sports newsletter. You throw out a lot of these trends on a daily basis in the emails. So I'm going to try to give you a good trend in each game. You got some good ones, couple of good ones in this one. I like the fact that visiting teams in title games, that would be the Bucks, off a road win are just 12-28 straight up, as well as 4-14 straight up off back-to-back road games. Because I have seen, including the New York Jets, I have seen teams have a nice couple of back-to-back wins on the road, but they just can't get over it. It's very difficult to win 3 straight road games in an NFL playoff season. And that's one trend. The other one that also favors the Packers, home teams who lost the title game the previous season are 44-7 straight up, as well as when they play teams off back-to-back wins like the Bucks, they have covered 22 of 25. So this is the trends, a couple of good trends that favor the Packers here.
Yeah, there's some pretty good trends there, especially given the fact that they are at home looking to make amends for what they didn't do in the championship game last year. So I think it's going to be a highly motivated Green Bay Packer football team here, the type of a team that maybe Tom Brady's not used to taking on in the playoffs, especially in championship games. And another rarity here is that you have Tom Brady on the road here.
Yes.
Okay.
Big difference when Tom Brady on the road. Because all I can remember when I remember Tom Brady on the road in big games like this is he's going to Indianapolis to face Peyton Manning, or he's going to Denver to face Peyton Manning, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Now he's going to Green Bay to face Aaron Rodgers. So, it's going to be a tough task. They are capable. There's no question about that. And as you said, you could maybe power rate them as a number 2 ranked team right now in the league. I think Buffalo deserves that, even though they slipped a cotter pin or two the last 2 weeks. But Tampa Bay is certainly on the come right now and playing their best football this season.
All right. Speaking of Buffalo, they are riding high. They have won 8 straight, covered 9 out of 10. And if you take away the Hail Mary loss to Arizona, which was the last loss for Buffalo, they would be on a 12-game winning streak right now. That's how well the Bills are going. And they had 220 yards of total offense last week. and they were in control of the game. And of course, having Lamar Jackson go down made it a lot easier for them, no doubt. But hey, they put themselves in a position. We went in. We told you the stats about Josh Allen hadn't played well all that much against the Ravens in a couple of games, and the Ravens defense was really good, and it happened. It showed. That was it. It wasn't Josh Allen though still doesn't he's not giving the game away. That's important. That's maturing. He's got no running game. So it's tough for a guy that has no running game to be that young to understand don't turn the ball over. And the defense, Sean McDermott did a great job not allowing Lamar Jackson to run all over the field. And here we go again. We have another injury to a athletic quarterback. We saw Kyler Murray, what happened to Arizona that eliminated them against the Rams, basically. Lamar Jackson. I mean, this is their game, and you have to deal with it. And I think anybody who thought Lamar Jackson was going to because the first couple of years he was injury free. If anybody, to me, this is the beginning. This is the beginning of Lamar Jackson's injury career. I'm not saying he's going to be out on injured reserve every year. I'm just saying when you run around as much as he does, you're going to start getting banged up. You're going to start missing football games. That means Baltimore's got to get themselves a pretty good backup quarterback in the future. And I'll talk more about that next week because I'm going to be interviewing Tony Lombardi, who I've had on the show before from Russell Street Report. So I'll get into that with him next week. But big win for the Bills. Back to the championship game where they've won 4 straight. As a matter of fact, have they ever lost a championship game?
Yeah, they did. They lost 2 of them before the 4 straight. So,
who was that? Pittsburgh and Miami?
I believe so. And the 4 straight obviously was with Jim Kelly back in the day. So, this is not a Jim Kelly football team. It's a Josh Allen football team who I think has made the biggest strides of any quarterback in the NFL this year. He was turnover prone in college. He was turnover prone in his first couple of years with the Buffalo Bills, but the light bulb went on for him. He's got all the tools. He's got the strong cannon arm. He can scramble. He can get around. He can do all those good things. But now he's not turning the football over, and that's why we're talking about the Buffalo Bills playing this week in the AFC Championship game, largely because of Josh Allen. I also think largely because of Sean McDermott, their head coach, who's really vastly underrated and has done a terrific job with this football team, especially from the day he took it over to where they are right now. What stood out to me last week in that game against the Baltimore Ravens was a real unique oddity. And what it was the play of the game, the turn of the game, when Lamar Jackson had his team on the 10-yard line and was ready to just go in and score and tie the game up, and he got pick 6 and run back for 101 yards. That's a 14-point swing. The oddity in that is that he, in his career, had never had an interception in the red zone prior to that. And I'm talking like 49 touchdown passes prior to that.
That's great.
Yeah. And what happens? Who's that knock at the door? Okay. It came calling against Lamar Jackson and it hurt him 101 yards. That was the football game right there and then. It was case closed. It's over. It's done. Even if Lamar Jackson doesn't get hurt, he's not going to rally that football team back. That's a backbreaker for something to happen like that. So, and it was a poor throw. I mean, it wasn't like the ball was, deflected or a route was misrun or something. It was just a poor pass. And he'll own up to that, but he had not been turnover prone in the red zone up until that monstrous turnover. So, and then look at the stats inside the game, as you mentioned before, 220 yards for Buffalo, 340 for Baltimore. If you looked at the stats of the football game, you would have Baltimore winning the game 17-3, not the other way around. But it is what it is.
You win and you move.
That's exactly right. 1 turnover only in the game, but it's the one we're just talking about, and it was devastating. So, to their credit, like I said, Buffalo slipped a cotter pin or 2 in the last 2 football games, and what I mean by that is a football team that looked to be next to invincible has suddenly been out-yarded in each of their last 2 contests.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. And they've won the games, but they've been out-yarded in both of those football games. Those are what I was calling before. Those moments, that you look for a football team to maybe begin to fade that team. And, I did fade them. I was in the Baltimore Ravens last week, so I'm probably crying a little bit of spilt milk. about that turnover and the play and the
Oh,
dominance
that's
of the
that
Ravens.
you don't account for those.
Right. You just can't handicap that. You
No.
don't know where it's going to happen and where it's going to come from. And if you would have told me going into the game that the Baltimore Ravens would have scored 3 points, I would have made an appointment for you to see Dr. Jennifer Melfi, the psychiatrist on The Sopranos. No way should Baltimore have
I would have
scored three
liked that.
points. Yeah, I would too. But it is what it is, and it's all to Buffalo's credit. The defense bent; they didn't break,
Yep.
and a lot of that is Sean McDermott. And
You better
again,
do it again this week.
yeah, he's going to have to do it again this week. Unlike the other football game where we had the graybeards we were talking about,
Yeah.
we've got the pimple pack here, the two young quarterbacks going toe to toe against one another here. If that is Patrick Mahomes is behind center, it's looking more and more like he should be, and will be if a doctor clears him because he's been practicing this week. And I would certainly love to see that because it's like if you buy a ticket for a game and you go to watch the game and you go to watch the Lakers and LeBron James isn't playing. It's like, come on, man! I didn't buy a ticket to see him sit on the bench.
Yeah.
Well, it would be this. It would be the same thing here. We're not going to tune in this game to see Patrick Mahomes sitting on the bench. And worse than that, I don't want to have to see Chad Henne again for the second week. And I'm speaking of that from a Cleveland Browns native fan's perspective, and I couldn't have thrown up any harder than I did watching Chad Henne
Michigan
save. Michigan, yeah. Michigan, Ohio State, okay.
Those are the good days for Michigan.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. But he did what he had to do too. I think we saw more of the real Chad Henne when he overthrew a receiver by about 15 yards.
That looked like As soon as that happened,
looked like Chad
Henne. Maybe the Browns are going to do it.
Exactly. And
they
I
couldn't
think
do it. So.
And I think personally, Andy Reid. He was vindicated by successfully completing a 1-yard pass at the 50-yard line, which was a terrible call. You don't allow a football team to put themselves back in the game and give them the ball at midfield. Are you kidding me?
1 minute, no timeouts. You have to score a touchdown. I mean, that's just crazy.
You pin them back to the 15-yard line and let them go 90, 85 yards with the one timeout.
Yeah.
And then you add Chad Henne to complete that pass. That was even more of a reach, if you will, in a situation. And then before that, he had the ball, he had time of possession, he had the lead, and he's throwing the ball, and he's stopping the clock for the Cleveland Browns.
And they ran the ball well. The Chiefs did. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They had both teams had 5 yards, averaged 5 yards per rush. Now we know Cleveland that's what they do. Even though you could say the Browns, that touchdown drive they had, that last one, when they finally scored that touchdown, I was like, you almost felt like they were lucky because Stefanski kept calling passing plays. It's like, what are you doing? Run the football. I go, why are you throwing the ball for? They can't stop you. So, and it's just, and then on the flip side, and we've talked about this season, if you're going to beat the Chiefs, you have got to stop the running game. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is maybe the best player on the planet, but just imagine how much more easy his offense is when he can run the football and you don't have to pin your ears back and try to come after him in the passing game. You can't, and I don't, whether Hilaire plays or not, that's what I do. I'm a defensive coordinator. Don't give them more than 50, 60 yards on the ground. If let Patrick Mahomes throw the ball for 400 yards. Remember we talked about that stat where quarterbacks that have thrown for whatever the number was in playoff games are like 0-2. I think it's 500 yards, or I don't know what it is. But the more yards you put up passing usually is not a good thing in playoff games. So that's what the Bills have got to do. Stop the Chiefs on the ground.
No, it's usually those yards come because you're trailing and you're forced to put the ball in the air, which is not a good reason to be passing the football. I'm going to go on record and say this, that if whoever wins this football game, when you look at the stats at the end of the game, that team will have rushed the ball 30 times. The team that loses this game will have rushed the ball less than 20 times. And if either team can establish...
Might be less than 10. Knowing both of these teams.
Yeah, it depends upon how big of a hole they fall into early in the football game. If you're down 14-0, everything's out, the whole game plan's chucked. But if you find that either team has 30 rushing attempts in this football game, put a W next to their name.
And look, that's the big advantage, no question, that the Chiefs have coming into this game. Josh Allen has no running game, zero. And yes, he's lost one of his running backs, but he's still and I haven't seen anything out of Singletary that makes me, especially in these big games. I expected more from him and this running game recently. It's like it's non-existent now. Not like they've lost a bunch of linemen or running backs. It's just they just don't run the football very well anymore. And maybe it's because when they're taking on teams, those teams are saying, let's stop the run, sort of like what I said. But the Bills just don't run the football very well at all. And Josh Allen has to do it. That's why you get 220 yards of total offense last week against the Ravens. Now, the Chiefs don't have the Ravens defense. So that's a big break for Buffalo, no question about it. But, I mean, can you give Josh Allen a little bit of balance? I mean, I think if they get 70 yards on the ground, then that's probably a bonus for Josh Allen.
Devin Singletary he's not a main horse running back. He's a complimentary running back. Really talented, and he was a good draft pick. I think they took him in the third round. They saw the talent that he had down here at Florida Atlantic. And he can end up being a Kareem Hunt complimentary type running back. But they don't have a horse in front of him. And that makes it difficult. So you're going to put all the burden on him, and it's really, in a sense, not fair. But you've seen so many times in games like this where somebody steps up that isn't a regular, isn't a star, and suddenly they're the star of the game because they rushed the ball for 155 yards on 15 rushing attempts, something like that. And it's not what you're expecting, but it's what those other players are capable of doing. And in the Cleveland Browns case, I was expecting, honestly, in that football game to see Kareem Hunt be the most valuable player of the game.
Yeah, I know. I was Chubb dropped like 4 passes in the game, and I'm like, why do they keep throwing the ball to Chubb? Where is Hunt?
Well, Chubb had done a really nice job all year long catching passes out of the backfield.
Sure.
That was a terrible game.
But it was a matchup.
Yeah,
it was.
And then you had the chip on the shoulder for Lamar Hunt, or for Kareem Hunt in the football game as well. So I think they could have better utilized him in the game. But we're all great at after being experts, 2020 experts after the thing is over. But I think he was mismanaging that football game. I think he was a tool that he didn't use.
Well, we talked about the lack of them running the football. Maybe that's where we would have liked to have not only seen the Browns run the football more, but if you're going to run the football more, give it to Hunt. Yes. So I think that's what maybe he was falling a little bit for the Baker Mayfield thing, because Mayfield was playing his best football of his career. And give Mayfield all the credit in the world. He's got his number one receiver out. Higgins, you have the terrible. I mean, I don't even know. That's just Browns fans. I mean, if I'm a fan and my receiver does that on first down, I'm just flipping out. I'm never going to forgive him. I just that first of all, that rule stinks, but the rule, and even Stefanski says they teach it. They actually teach it. Well, I'm glad to hear him say that, because I think some people would say, well, shouldn't you teach these kids? Well, he said it. We teach them that on first down, you don't do that. And it cost the Browns a big score there. And look, who knows what happens if Mahomes is healthy the whole game? They had the early lead. Maybe it ends up, maybe the Browns could have backdoor covered. Who knows?
Well, if the Browns get the targeting call on the pass,
that should have been a targeting call. Correct.
That was a pure targeting. It was a pure targeting hit. In fact, if you looked at the replay, the ball came out upon impact. That's when the ball came out.
Yes, that's you knew what was going on, is the officials were worrying so much about the football.
Right.
Nobody was paying attention to the target.
And it's the worst rule of all in the NFL. That rule of fumbling a football into the end zone, the other team getting it. Yeah, it's ludicrous.
Especially,
but, it is.
Look, so you could say, I'll even have or listen to somebody complaining and going, yeah, but what do I get? I mean, and I'm not saying this particular player because he used a helmet, but let's say a defender does a really good job of jarring the ball loose. Oh, shouldn't he get a bonus from that? But the problem is it has to be a strict rule one way or another. And what you can't have is when they do it and they reach the ball and it's like nobody's even touching the guy. It's like the defense did nothing. Like the offensive guy could have ran 99 yards, and then just as just because he's got a guy on it that's just about to touch him, he's going to reach across, and just as he reaches across, it slips out of his hands and goes in the back of the end zone, and the defense does absolutely nothing
And
for
they get
99
rewarded.
yards, and you're going to
Yeah.
give them the ball.
No, that's a terrible rule. Just
Yeah.
a terrible rule. But, we're talking about Kansas City because that all happened. And it was Sorensen, the defensive back from
Yes.
Kansas City, who leveled that hit. And, he's kind of a Jack Tatum kind of a guy. And I don't know if the rule in the National Football League is the same as college football, that if you're found guilty of targeting and you have to leave the game, if you're eligible to play the next week or the first half. And if that were the case in this football game, that would have been a big loss for Kansas City.
I don't think they have that. No,
I don't think they
remember.
do either.
No,
Right.
I don't know if they just get fined,
Right.
that sort of thing. But it does seem like, because I've seen some of the targeting actually. Like I saw it. I don't remember what game it was, but it does seem like I don't know, because college they do it a lot more. I mean, and I'm okay with that because it's college. These are young kids. Look, I don't really like the whole stop the game, take a look at the video. Sorry, kid, you're out. It is aggravating. It is football, but the NFL, at least they don't do it as much. So I'm okay with that. I just think, I hope that in 5 years, all of this pays off, because eventually the whole idea of this penalty is so as these kids are coming up through Pee-wee and high school and so forth, they will be taught more and they won't do it anymore. And I don't want, because if this goes on for like 10 and 20 more years, whatever, then just get rid of the rule, because they're not learning anyway. So hopefully they will learn from this, and we won't see these penalties much more, and it'll be good for the sport because we'll have less injuries too.
For sure, safer for the sport, which is what the National Football League should be all about, is encouraging the safety of the sport.
Mahomes and the Chiefs are 0-8-1 against the spread now in their last 9 games. So, but they're only about a 3.5 point favorite here, a 3-point favorite. So chances are you win, you cover. But the way the Chiefs are going, I think it's plus 140. I noticed. I don't know. I haven't looked today, and it can change. But considering the Chiefs are 0-8-1 against the spread, I would definitely I'm not touching the money line. I'm taking the points because the Chiefs could very well just win and not cover again, and I'll take every point I can get. When a team is just they have now gone, it's been 6 points or less during that streak, right? They haven't won a game by more than 6 points in the last 9.
Yeah, every one of those games has been a one-score game, other than their loss. It's all those wins were one-score wins.
So that could come into play. As far as trends, the one that I like here is defending champs are just 7-11 straight up in the playoffs when they take on teams with a winning percentage of 750 or greater. That also includes 2-6 straight up versus opponents off of 3 straight wins. But more modern history with the Chiefs 0-8-1 against the spread in their last 9. And look, the offense looked better than it had in recent weeks. So maybe they were about to turn it on, which we said would be difficult, but they didn't. So the fact was they did not. And I think sometimes just the flow of the game, it could be just luck. I get it, but facts are facts. And the fact is that they have not been a well-oiled machine for 4 quarters in months. And the Bills could not be more well-oiled, as far as no matter what they have to do to win football games, they're winning football games. And they still have a little bit of a kind of, hey, you know what? After those 2 games at home, a little bit more pressure on them. The pressure now is off. No pressure. You've accomplished everything that you've really wanted to accomplish this year, almost, but if you lose, it's still a very good season for this particular organization where they stand right now with Josh Allen's development. I think they have the ability to go out there on Sunday and not feel much pressure.
I think the pressure's on Kansas City in this game. I agree with you, Craig. It's been a long time between drinks of water for a Super Bowl champion to repeat. in the National Football League, and this one looks like they're susceptible, especially with Patrick Mahomes having played only one half of a football game the last three games.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
also a
be,
very important point because not just the injury that took him out, but he didn't play much. And like
exactly.
you said, he hasn't. And then the games before the regular season ended, he wasn't playing very well. We talked about that last week.
Right.
So, look, we all know how good he is. We all know that they could pick off where they left off before the injury last week and wind up beating the Bills. And like I said, oh, it was a nice season, Buffalo, but the Chiefs are back and they're the best team in football. And they were just kind of waiting their turn for, hey, the lights are on. Okay, we'll play. Uh, and maybe there'll be a little bit more search of urgency, sense of urgency, because of the fact that Mahomes got hurt last week. He almost put himself in a position where he could not play this week, and now the Chiefs are like, "Hey, man, we just dodged a bullet, so let's go out there and try to do whatever we can to get this team and put them away as early as possible, et cetera, et cetera." But we'll see. We'll know more, of course, when the game's over. I just think it's. I just think the way the Bills are going, the question's going to be is we've seen the Chiefs in big pressure games. This is their third straight championship game. They've been there, done that. This particular Bills unit has not. How does Buffalo handle the big stage? Because this is now the biggest stage they've ever been in.
I'd be mainly concerned about Buffalo being on this big stage if the roles were reversed. If they were the number one seed and they were at home and they were favored against the Chiefs,
Pressure.
then suddenly the pressure. Exactly. I think they come in here loose as a goose. They're playing with house money right now, and they're playing
And
some pretty
nobody's
good
in the
football.
stands. What do they have? They're going to have like 20, 30,000 fans, if that?
And it's been said that the Kansas City, when those fans of Kansas City are the most rabid of all fans in the National Football League, and they've been missing for most of the season, and maybe that attributes to this run that they're on, this 9 week not covering a spread run. Maybe that's all part of it too here as well. So,
Sure.
I think this line isn't packed so much because of the home field, because of the lack of fans. The line is where it is right now because of the uncertainty of Patrick Mahomes. They had to put a number up there where they wouldn't get beat too bad, and they can move off of that number upon an announcement. If he plays, this line will go to 4.5 or 5 points if he confirms that he plays. If he doesn't, you're going to see the Buffalo Bills favored in the football game. Then we're talking a different animal.
Okay, so you still believe that early on Sunday, once we know for sure, either way, especially if Mahomes does play, you expect a couple of extra points will be thrown onto the Chiefs.
I do. There's people that I've talked to in Vegas that don't think it'll move that much, but there's a lot of people with eyeballs on this game that are going to relate to Patrick Mahomes. And when they know Patrick Mahomes is in the game, they have a scoop. They have an edge, they feel. And they're going to bet this game with both fists because
Yeah,
it
the
looks
Chiefs,
cheap.
there's no way the Chiefs would be a 3-point favorite if
No,
Mahomes
it looks
didn't get
cheap.
hurt last week.
It's cheap, exactly. So that's how it's going to be bet. And that's the reason why, if he is announced in plenty of advance time, you will see this game at 4.5 or 5 points.
And look, if you like the Bills, just sit back, wait, because even if you already have the idea he's going to play, and if you already like them, then just wait, be patient, wait for the odds to change. Put a wager on the game half hour before the game if you like the Bills, because you're going to get the best odds all week.
And you could snap the rubber band if he doesn't play, and it's the Bills against Chad Henne. So
I don't see that happening,
no.
but I do wonder. I don't know. My sense. I've been doing this for so long. I just get the feeling that if this was just a regular football game, he wouldn't be playing. Uh, and not just that, but I don't know. When I see a player dizzy the way he was, and then you hear them talking this week about, well, you know what? It really wasn't a concussion. And these are doctors outside of Kansas City, So, dude, look, I have eyes. Okay, don't try to fool me or try to misdirect me with some scientific medical mumbo jumbo. I have eyes. Okay, the guy couldn't stand without help. That's just not something you get over very quickly. And that's the whole idea of the concussion rule, is that if you see somebody in that situation, that chances are he probably needs a little bit. He should probably have, to be safe, and probably a couple of weeks off. I get why he's playing. Don't get me wrong, but I just, do I think that he should be like 100% cleared from what happened in that hit? Heck no. I think he's taking a little bit of a chance, but I agree that he should take the chance. That's what this time of the season is about.
Well, the doctors will confirm the concussion, whether he was concussed or not. We all know it. Like you said, you saw it, I saw it, we all saw it. He had that deer in the headlights look. He looked like he just drank some bleach to get rid of COVID, and that was the after effect when he tried to
Yes.
get back up.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So, but again, it's all going to be in the hands of the doctor, not the team doctor, but
No, that's
an
yeah.
outside doctor. So,
And we want him to play. There's no question about
absolutely,
it.
absolutely, we do. Because we're going to want to watch this football game, and we want to see Kansas City's best going up against Buffalo's best.
And lastly, it's interesting, but when Buffalo and Chiefs played earlier this year, it was in Buffalo. Chiefs were a 6-point favorite. Now they won the game. They kicked the field goal late, and that's the reason why they covered. They had a drive late in the game. They were able to hold the ball for several minutes. Bills could not get that final stop in order for them to get the ball back with a chance to win. Chiefs were able to march down the field, score a late field goal, and win the game by 9. And when that happened, it was the first time all season. Well, really, now that we look back at the season, it's the only time all season that the Bills failed to cover a game when they were an underdog. So they were 2-2 straight up, 3-1 against the spread in the underdog role. And I don't even know if they ended up, where were they? They were favored against the Dolphins, right? Yeah, they were favored against the
Yes.
Dolphins. So, because I wouldn't have counted that anyway, but they were. So anyway, yeah, I just think that's interesting to note because they've done a really good spot in the dog role this year as well.
Well, that's what you find when you have 800 football teams, that got to an 800 win percentage. Anywhere along the way that they were installed as an underdog, there's a real good chance
That's
that
right.
they not only covered that ticket, but they won the game as well. And that's the role they'll be dressed up here in this football contest here as well this week.
All right, Mark. So it's basketball season 2, believe it or not. NBA, college basketball. You have your weekly newsletter coming out for hoops now. And are we going to have, think things are going to work out for basketball?
I certainly hope so. It's a mess. It's a mess there. It's a mess in the National Hockey League. It's a mess everywhere. And until we can get some stricter COVID protocols in place, is going to continue to keep being a mess. And it's a little bit difficult having to handicap this because you're handicapping games that aren't being played, and the ridiculousness of playing the same team back-to-back nights in the same court.
I
And
hate that.
I told you the story about the one college basketball team that's faced the same opponent 4 games in a row.
Yes, you sent that. That was out in one of the email blasts.
Yes, yeah, that was Arkansas State playing
That's just
Louisiana Monroe.
ridiculous.
It is. It's all about the money. Is really what it is.
And as a hockey fan, the way they're doing this, and you have to face like a team 10 times a season, it's come on. I mean, I don't
Well, you know what they're doing in hockey? I think, Greg, is like, I'm going to say this. I think they're going to get to where the National Football League got to because of having to add an extra team into the playoffs because of the COVID situation. And I think the National Hockey League is going to learn to like series rather than one game series.
in the
I think they're
regular
going.
season, really.
Yes, they're going to like to play 3-game series at one site, maybe over the course of 4 or 5 days. It is
I don't
going to.
mind that as long as they don't have, as long as you only play that team a normal amount of times during the entire season.
Well, let it be a division
Yeah.
opponent. I think that'd be the best. Right?
Yeah, I don't mind
Because
that. But 10 times a season, whatever it is now, it's just
no,
ridiculous.
it is. And you save on travel, you save on costs, you save on exposure to the COVID, all those things, and I completely get that. But do it the right way, and I think the fans will accept it.
And I don't even know what to expect with college basketball because if they don't, it's just the way it looks right now. They're not going to, I don't know. I mean, you would think Indianapolis, it's a really big, they're playing in the football stadium, right?
Well, they're going to play in 3 arenas around there. They're going to play at Butler University, at that field house, and another university, and in the field where the Colts play. Uh, but my concern is this: is what happens in that NCAA tournament if one of these players comes down with COVID and then all of a sudden the team is on COVID protocol and the team can't play? Are they expunged from the playoffs from that point
Probably.
forward? Does the game get made up? I mean, I don't know. It's
Probably.
and
Yeah,
it,
probably.
yeah, it's an ugly
I mean, the
mess.
football stadium. What was it? That that's such a big stadium that you would hope that they'd be able to put enough fans in there, because again, especially in college basketball, we've said this before, but if there are no fans in these tournament games, nobody's going to watch. They're just not.
They're not going to be the same. No, they won't be. They're going to have to get fans in the stands, and they're going to have to do it safely. So whatever that plan charts out to be to get there, that's the job that they have to attend to and make sure that that happens.
But the good thing is as of right now, they are playing basketball. So if you want to check out all of PlaybookSports.com's basketball data, you know where to go. And of course, everything else, PlaybookSports.com, Mark. I look forward to talking more about some of those other sports once the football season is over. But the next time we talk, we will be previewing the Super Bowl, the final game of the season. So I look forward to doing that with you again, Mark.
Well, that will be with the tear in the eye, Greg, because it means the last game of the season. But nonetheless, we will have made it COVID free. Knock on wood, and we'll look forward to doing just that,
Hey,
talking
do
about
you
the
think
Super Bowl.
maybe we can like stay on the air for about another 20 minutes, because it looks like the sun is just about creeping up to your chin now.
You know what wise guys are? Okay, I'm talking to one right now.
All right, Mark, we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
All right, Greg, have a good one. Enjoy the games. Be well and stay safe.